All right, welcome to another episode of Gray's Academy, where we go over just a little bit of the things to get started with Splunk. And yeah, welcome. We're gonna have some fun today. Relax, just kind of go with the flow, figure out how we can get started with Splunk. So, a couple of things real quick. Just a forward-looking statement. Shouldn't have any issues with that or anything like that, but feel free to read that over, pause if you need to. My name is Gray Juba. I'm a technical marketing manager here at Splunk. I focus on industries and new markets and innovation. Formerly an automation controls engineer. If you don't know what that means, basically, I used to program the machines that made anything from chewing gum to flooring to all sorts of things. Basically, if you ever seen the TV show How It's Made, to be one of the guys behind the scenes programming those machines. Um, Splunker for 4 years and customer before. Focus on the, like I said, the non-traditional, maybe the new markets and innovation. First conf was in 2016. I'm a home brewer, beekeeper, barbecue, and fisherman. So I can kind of get a little bit of this information about me, so you get to know a little bit about who I am, ask some questions, and think of it as just a casual stream and getting to learn Splunk. So sweepstakes, we do have a sweepstake. It's $25 gift card to the Splunk gift shop. Ends November 30th. There are 10 winners, one entry per person, and winners will be announced next month. I dropped that in the chat. I can do that real quick again. Just give me a second to make sure that we've got that for everybody that wants to sign up. All right, so I'm gonna hit that one. And then over here as well. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And a little bit about what Gray's Academy is. It's a 3-part series. Today we're doing the first Thursday. This is a proficiency level beginner. So if you don't know anything about Splunk but are wanting to learn a little bit more, this is a great place to start. We'll be doing Splunk 101 in the cloud. I'll give you some documentation about how to follow along as we go. And if you want, you can sign up for Splunk Cloud or meet us back next month. We'll be doing it all over again. And the second Thursday, it's our 201 series. It's more of an intermediate where we kind of go into a little bit more things. So if you're kind of like a very beginner with Splunk, you may have followed along with the 101, want to learn a little bit more. For example, we like to go over the new dashboard framework. I think the next one we might be focusing on getting data in on the fundamental level of how to import data. I have to double check the schedule, make sure that's correct. And then a Thursday is usually we like to have some of those new markets innovation type of applications where we start thinking about how to use Splunk in areas outside of just that security application. So please stick along and mark those on your calendar and join us for those. All right, a little bit of a live streaming theme. It's fun. Ask questions. I like to. You said that I'm a barbecuer. I'm a charcoal or propane guy. What's my favorite search Splunk command? What's my favorite comp file? And a little bit more about it is like, so when we do these streams, sometimes, for example, this is the 101 series and we kind of go along, but sometimes you might have questions and we don't, get them, we'll go off track. We're here to learn with you. So know that you can ask questions and we'll figure it out. If we can't figure it out, we'll make sure we put you in touch with somebody that can. We don't make mistakes. We just make happy little accidents. That's what I love about Splunk is as you create and learn these search commands, sometimes you figure out something new or a different way of solving a problem. And I definitely want people to point those things out if they're following along and they know Splunk. They're like, hey, you know what? There's a better way. There's a different way. Maybe not always better, but a different way of approaching that search. And we do have some moderators here that they answer giveaways, answer some questions, and reference material as we need it. All right, a little bit about today. We're signing up for Splunk Cloud. Install the tutorial data, and we're going to follow the Splunk Cloud search tutorial and then questions and answers at the end. All right, let's get started. Give me a second to switch over. Usually takes me just a few seconds to kind of get this going. All right, looks like we are good to go. You guys can see me. Maybe I'll drop myself on the. Oop, that's not what I wanted to do. There we go. I was trying to see if I can move my face out of the way, out of the bottom right hand corner, but we'll just keep it there. And perfect, 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 perfect. Okay. So, what we're going to be doing today is first things first, let's figure out how to get Splunk Cloud. So, if you go to splunk.com, I've actually gone through the process, made sure that was signed out. So, you go splunk.com, and then up in the top right hand corner, you can click on Free Splunk. And you fill out this information. You can do the cloud trial, which is Splunk Cloud, or if you're if you're interested in kind of installing it on your own machine, feel free to do that as well. Linux, Windows, and Apple are all supported. Fill out that information, and once you've got it set up, if you do the cloud, you'll get an email with a URL. If you do the download, you'll go to your local host : 8,000 to get to your instance. For example, we got a loopback address here, 8,000. So let's talk a little bit. Once you get installed, over here on the left is exactly what you'll see is kind of your main interface. And then we're going to follow along with the Splunk searcher tutorial. I'll drop that back in chat real quick so everybody has a copy of it and they can follow along if they'd like. Perfect. All right. So basically what we're going to do is kind of get you started, kind of start those wheels going and get you set to kind of do some of your own. You can follow along, get the, I guess, the axles greased, as you could say, and get the ball rolling. And we'll follow along. You can read all the documentation in full details. And follow along and do this at your own pace as well. Okay, so about this search tutorial, today we will be following along with the Splunk Enterprise, but if you're on the Splunk Cloud, you just switch over, and it's fundamentally the exact same process, just maybe minor some URLs and things along those lines. But Splunk Enterprise. And again, I would recommend as you kind of start off the first time, you would want to do it on your own instance rather than maybe like a production instance. So the search and reporting application. So about this search tutorial, the search and reporting application, search app is the primary interface for using Splunk software to run searches, save reports, and create dashboards. This search tutorial is for users who are new to Splunk platform and the search app. Use this tutorial to learn how to use the search app. Differences between Splunk Enterprise and Splunk platform are specified throughout this tutorial. So you might see some minor differences, but again, for the most part, the same thing. So when you first log into Splunk, you'll be greeted with this page. You'll have your search and reporting app and then a couple other apps. You may not see all these same apps. I have some already pre-installed from some of the other processes. Hey, welcome, welcome. And so kind of moving along, let's go ahead and get started. I'm not going to read all the documentation. If you want to, like I said, you can go through that same process yourself. All right, we've already created a Splunk account. Here's a couple of information about what the minimum requirements are. The data files, if you need to download the data files. So once you're on the second page, you go under what's needed for the tutorial and then download those data files or these zip files. I've already done it. Don't unzip them, just keep them as is. And perfect. All right, we're going to assume we've already installed navigating the Splunk web. All right, so a little bit. So we have the Splunk bar at the top. This is going to be kind of like your administration type of view. You got your settings, data inputs, managing of your indexes. And again, if you're running this on Splunk Cloud, it might look a little bit different, but for the most part, it'll be fundamentally the same. And if you are working from a shared instance, you might see some different settings based off of your user preferences. You may not see some of these indexes or let's say server controls. They won't, you won't be allowed to like reboot the system or management, things like that. So just kind of showing you that's there. All right, so we have your app panel on the left-hand side, and then the Splunk panel, and then the Splunk Explore Splunk's Enterprise. Okay. Anything, only thing that I would say, if you see me kind of go back to this main screen, the way to do that is just click on the Splunk Enterprise icon in the top left. It might be the Splunk Cloud one, and it'll get you back to the beginning. Couple of things you might want to look into is the account settings, maybe some preferences. I think this is where you're going to change your time zone if you start seeing things that are a little bit different. I've already done some of these advanced editors and changing the themes. We might see that in a little bit. I have it searched auto format, lines to auto numbers, and then I've changed it to a dark theme so you can follow along and see that as well. Perfect. And close that up. Okay. So let's upload the data now to our system. So I have used this instance before, but we're going to be going, hey, how's it going, Paulo? I have tested, I have already uploaded this, but in the process, we're going to create a new index to follow along in case you would like to. We'll do that. So first things first, well, actually, let's just follow along with the discuss or the documentation about uploading data. Where is the data stored? The process of transforming the data is called indexing. So basically, as data is ingested into Splunk, we call it indexing. And during the indexing, the incoming data is processed to enable fast searching and analysis. The process results are stored in the index as events. Raw data, which is the data that you add to Splunk deployment, the raw data is stored in a compressed format. Index files, which include some metadata files that point to the raw data. All right, we might skip a little bit ahead. We're not going to go through everything. So let's just go to the upload the tutorial data so we can get to some of the actual searching and along the way. So first things first, we're in our home screen. We're actually going to go into the search and reporting app. And then once you're inside the search and reporting app, you're going to click on the settings and then click on add data. At the bottom of the window, there is the upload files from computer. And we're going to select the files. And if I've got it in here, we're going to be looking for tutorialsdata.zip. Open that file. We're going to not, remember, we're going to select the zip file. We're not going to unzip it. And we're going to click next. And from here, we're going to click continue to input settings. Under input settings, okay, that's where we are. This is very key. So if depending on which platform you're in, whether you're in Splunk Cloud, Splunk Enterprise, or Mac OS X, or Windows, you'll need to make sure that you put the right information to separate this data accordingly. So we're going to come over here and we're going to, since we're working on a Windows box, we are going to click on automatic and then segment path. And then we're going to drop down our segment number. And from here, usually what you're going to do is leave it in index. But in today, we're going to create a new index. And we're going to call it NOV for November. This is our November index. And everything else can stay the same. And we're going to click save. Make sure you select that new index. And we're going to click review and submit. Okay, so the first thing we want to do now is to see that data in the search app, click start searching. So very quickly, so we're working from a static data set, which is, this is good for today to help us kind of get started, start seeing that data. You might not see your search bar look exactly like mine, but that's fine. That was just part of that account setting. Oop, not account settings. under that preferences and SPL editor themes. We saw that there where we set it to dark theme. And you might see a screen asking if you want to take a tour. You can skip this tour, or you can just go, if you have a pop-up that says tour, just go ahead and skip it for now, or you can go through the guided tour if you would like. All right, so then it says follow-up success. The results confirm that the data in the tutorial data.zip file was indexed and events were created. So you can actually see that here. These are our events. We'll get into define the difference between events and fields here in a little bit. All right, so let's click on now you have to add data to your Splunk Cloud. You will need to begin to learn how to search that data. Continue to part 3. If you're not in the home screen, click on the Splunk logo on the top bar and take you to the Splunk home. Perfect. So click on the Splunk home. From there, you'll click on search and reporting in the apps panel. And this is where the screen that we're taken to. Okay, so basically at this point, we're going to be talking about like the different navigation of your page. So we got the application bar at the top, and then we have the Splunk bar over here on the right, the apps bar right here. So this is the app. So all the different apps have different app bars. And then we have our search bar right here. And then time range picker, so we can pick when we want to search on that data that is indexed into our environment. And how to search, which one is that? Basically, if you have your how to search, you have some documentation. This is really key. So if you need to go to some of the Splunk documentation, I think this might actually take us pretty close to where we are right now. Yeah. So we got the search manual. You can get some information about it, how to kind of get started through the process. We've got the tutorial, which I think we're going through right now. Yep. If you've got Splunk installed, that's how you can get to the tutorial quick. And the data summary, and this is going to tell us a little bit about the data inside of your environment. So whether or not like the sources of data, the sources, hosts, and the source types associated to that data. And then last but not least, you've got your search history. So this is where you can see all the previous searches run on this particular instance. If for some reason you close your window or you want to find some search that you did in history, this is the best way to go and find that. Alrighty. So the best way, and again, let's say you start going through the searches, you instead of going all the way back to the enterprise window, you can just actually click on the search button right here and it'll take you back to this main screen. Specifying time ranges is our next step. So we're going to start a new search. Click on search in the app bar. We've done that. To search for a keyword in your events, type Buttercup Games. So Buttercup Games in the search bar and press enter. Since we created a new index, what we do need to do, since it's last 24 hours, we need to include and make sure that we select that index. So index equals NOV space Buttercup Games, because that's where our data is. Just make sure. All right, yeah, it's there. The time frame which it indexed the data was pushed back a couple months. I think that's probably a little bit of our issues. All right, time ranges. So that's a perfect selection. So we didn't have any data pop up because the time range at which it was selected was by default, it was beyond our last 24 hours. So when I select Buttercup Games and then I say last 24 hours, I'm not seeing any data because no data exists for Buttercup Games in the last 24 hours. But if I can go and click all time, I'm looking to the beginning of time. There's also additional ones. So you have real time. So what real time means is the search will run a search, and as soon as that search finishes, it'll start a new search. Relative is basically compared to right now. So you want to say today, starting from now, or now to the beginning of the day. Week to date, previous year, And then you also have some more descriptive, prescriptive selections. So you can do, like, let's say, um, date ranges, before, between, since, and other advanced ones. And you can even put in the hard coded search there. And if you want to find out more information about that, you can go there. You need to click on that documentation. Okay, we went through that. Basic searches and search results. Okay, so what we want to do is click in the search in the app bar to start a new search. And what it's going to say is, if we start typing in Buttercup, but actually it's going to be index equals NOV Buttercup. I've got the drop down not popped up, so we click on auto open. So what I was wanting to see there is, as I start typing this in, it's going to start opening up some information. I have a tendency to automatically turn that off because it kind of gets in the way of my results once you see that in a little bit. But you can just open it up and see that information just by clicking on that little arrow, and then click on auto open for you. So we're going to see the matching searches of the searches we just did. And you can just click on that and it'll automatically populate for us. And then we can click search in the app to start a new search. And we're just going to come in here. And what we can do is we can just start typing category. And you can see it auto-populates some matching terms for us. In this particular case, we're going to be looking for category. And then select category ID equals sports, which is this bottom. Select one of them near the bottom. Select that and search. And we're going to select all time. And so you can see that data over time. Perfect. And so what we're kind of looking at here, one of the things that's understood. As you look and see the new search here at the top left, you can type in search in space, and you actually can run it again, and you'll see that search disappears because it's understood in the very first command that search is there. It's like kind of one of those things. There's no reason to make everybody type it because that's generally just how you run Splunk at the beginning. So they just we omitted it, and it's unnecessary. Okay. And another thing to note is essentially what we are doing is finding like searches in which the criteria where category ID equals sports is existing in the result set of the data. Okay. I'm just gonna copy this because we're gonna be using it a lot. So type in index equals, Guess I didn't copy it. NOV. And so retrieving events from index. Let's try to find out how many errors have occurred in the Buttercup Games website. For example, typing Buttercup Games error is the same as typing Buttercup. Okay, so we're kind of looking at the Boolean logic here. Buttercup Games and error. So we're going to do Buttercup Games and then error and search. We might have to adjust our time period again to all time. And now you can see all the instances in which we have the search results, Buttercup Games. And so we'll just kind of go follow along. It says if we put an and there, it is more or less understood that adding two things together is and. So for example, if it was Buttercup Games or error, so it means that it only has one or the other. So you actually have more result sets because you're going to return all of that information back. Okay, perfect. To search for the terms error, failed, and severe in the events that are also mentioned Buttercup Games, run the following search. So we want to say that in the index NOV, Buttercup Games, parentheses, error or fail star with a wildcard, or severe, close parentheses, and search. So basically we're saying Buttercup Games and error or fail star or severe. So fail star means fail, failure, failed, failing are all the instances in which we can return the results there. So click on the search icon on the top right hand corner to clear out. Let's see if I can copy this again. And click search. And we'll just drop that back in there and move on to the next step. Okay, so now what we're going to be doing, I guess we kind of skipped over that a little bit. Understanding the search results, we'll just go show you that real quick. And as we see this, let's type in Buttercup. I should have just kept that. Yeah, let's just keep that there, press return, and now we have all the results set now. So in our events, we have 427 events that returned based off of the search above. We have patterns, statistics, and visualizations, of which we can get into in a little bit. But the biggest things that we're going to basically want to show you here at this point in time is if you see this caret, we have time and event. We have time and then the event. And within the event, we have fields, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But basically, each of these sections of data, as they were sent to Splunk, Splunk said, okay, based off of what I know how data is coming in, or some kind of regular expression, I know how to parse the data accordingly and store it in these indexes. Okay. And we kind of highlighted what we have over here is interesting fields and pattern statistics and visualizations. We'll get to those in a little bit. So use fields to search. So what are fields? All right. So yes, does Splunk have a regular expression builder which can help if I don't know how to write regex? Yes, it does. I actually can go through that real quick if regular expressions are, to kind of give context for people as they're following along, regular expressions are used to pull out information from a group of text that may be valuable. So essentially, let's look at this and say, I want to pull out the website address or the domain address, which would be, buttercupgames.com. And I just want to pull out domains. So what I could do is I could then click on this little events actions real quick and then extract fields. And this is where I would do a regular expression. And then if you knew as if it's delimited, you might even be able to manage it with, like, let's say, a CSV or comma delimited or tab delimited. But in this particular case, I'll show you how if you want to just pull out the domain. And here, what I would do is I would then highlight buttercupgames.com, and then I would give it a name. And I would call this like domain. And then add extraction. And what is to kind of follow along, essentially what we're doing is extracting out a field name from that data set so that we can then search on. So I'm not going to go through this whole process, but that's how you would do that in the builders built into the system. Okay, make sure I got this over here. Perfect. I'm going to just close this window. And now going back, this is our full set of data. And then underneath this, Splunk has automatically already pulled out lots of data. So depending on the structure of your data, let's say it's JSON, CSV, delimited, like if you have equal signs in between the thing, in between your name value pair, Splunk will automatically know how to extract all that out. In the case that kind of like what the question that came in was, does Splunk have a regex visual builder? The answer is yes. And then in the structure of data, you're like, I don't know how to parse this, or somebody created a log file that's just not standard. You can then do the builder in the process as well, and you can do it on the fly afterwards. So you ingest the data into Splunk, and then you apply that regular expression after the fact to make your life easier. But what we have here is each inside of this event, we have fields, and fields represent a value that can be searchable. So basically, I can create a field name where I want to find any fields in which message equals credit does not match. And then I can just kind of return all the result sets back. Extracted fields. So Splunk software extracts fields from events data at index time and at search time. So index time is saying I know where the data is, and I know how to parse this. So I'm going to extract those fields at index time. And then you also have the ability to extract data, like I said, at search time. So when I click the search button, it applies and runs calculations on that data to extract that information out. All right, so let's go ahead and get started and search with fields. We're gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna delete this rather than clicking the search at the top. And we're gonna type in source type equals access underscore star. Whoops, star. Everything goes right. Yep, we should see some results. Perfect, perfect, perfect. All right, so basically we're going through, scroll through the events, the list of events in your search results. We can do this by focusing on the selected fields on the left-hand side, but basically we kind of already talked about a lot of the information here in our previous discussions. But at this point, we are going to click on all fields. I'm going to do some things. I think we're supposed to take out product ID, category ID, and action. And in this particular case, whoops. In this particular case, we are now looking at the all fields. We select that in the top right hand right here. I just kind of undid the step that we're doing now a second ago. Click on all fields. To add fields to the selected fields list, click all fields at the top of the field sidebar. The selected fields dialog box shows a list of fields in your events. The number of values column shows the number of unique values stored for each field in the event. Because your search criteria specifies the source type, the source field has just type 1. So basically we have limited it source type down to just 1 because that was part of our search criteria. And so now we want to select action category ID. So action category ID and product ID. Let's see, product ID. Okay, perfect. And then you can go ahead and close that. And what it does is now drops these selected fields. So in the list, basically it's just an organizational structure. Let's say there's specific fields you're going to use a lot or interesting or valuable from this particular search, it will drop them at the very top. Just think of it as making your life a little bit easier. Okay, so what we want to do now is click on action. And this kind of gives you some, really kind of neat ways to do it. So, or neat kind of like quick searches to make your life easier. So, if I click on these down below, what it will automatically do is say action equals purchase. So I can say, I want to see all my results where action equals purchase, and it drops that up there. I'm actually going to delete that real quick so you can follow along. Or maybe we click on action, and I want to see top values by field. And now I can see the time chart top values, and I'll actually create that visualization for us really quickly. It kind of normalizes it. We're looking over a couple of weeks, but you kind of see how it quickly creates and builds the charts and visualization for you. Delete that and go back to our events and follow along. So, so let's click on action again, and I'm following along right here. It says the action fields appear in over 50% of your search results. So, well, 49.8. 78, so five values, so there's five results, and it appears 49% of the time in all your data sets. And we're going to review category ID. What do we see here? So 43% most common for category ID is strategy results. So a lot of people like, I guess, the strategy games. And product ID. And these are different, let's say, SKUs or product numbers associated to these specific games themselves. All right. Yeah, we've kind of gone through and I've showed you how to drop these down and see all the information there. It says start a new search. So we're going to go down, run targeted searches. I'm going to copy this. Okay, so in this particular case, we are looking across the index NOV. Source type equals access underscore star. Status equals 200, meaning that it was successful, and action equals purchase. Um, you can also set. You can also search for failed purchases in similar manners using status bang equals 200, which looks for all events where the HTTP status code does not equal to 200. So that's very simple. Just exclamation equals, and now we're filtering. Say it does not equal. Okay. So there's so search for errors. The way that errors are designed in events varies from source to source. To search for errors, your search must specify these different designations. Use Boolean operations to specify different error criteria. Use parentheses to group parts of your search string. Okay. We're gonna do something fun here. So I'm going to drop that in. And what we need to do here is also drop a parentheses there and a parentheses there to say index equals now or NOV and all of this or this. So basically, we're saying based off of our different areas, we want to see all the data returns error or fail star or severe or status equals 400. Really, at the same time, we don't need any parentheses here because it all should any of these work. But we'll leave those there. I'm getting carried away with my Boolean algorithmic equations. So a quick search, and now we can see all the data. So one of the things about Splunk is you can then search across, let's say, multiple and different indexes. So let's say I want to search for all of my HTTP errors that are having to do with, like, let's say, the purchasing process of a specific web store application, and then I also want to pull in data from I don't know, a database as like a SQL database and pull out like the health of the searches or the log files associated. Those live in two different areas in this particular case. So we're saying, hey, I want to look at the server infrastructure and say, hey, I'm going to pull in the errors there, and then I'm going to also pull in the response based off of these different environments. So just simple ways of showing how data Splunk is great about correlating data from multiple different sources. All right. So now it says click on source in the selected fields list. And now we have all the different source locations of where the data came in. And yesterday, I don't think this is going to work because we don't have any data for yesterday. Okay, based off of how the data comes in. So when we ingested the data, Windows doesn't extract it as efficiently as, let's say, Linux or Apple. So just keep that in mind. So we'll just skip that and we'll just leave it back. I think it's like all time. Yeah. So run the following searches. Okay. We got to make sure we keep index equals NOV since we did create a new index and that's where all this data lives. Oh, I was supposed to type that in. All right, let's do that. Let's start over. Let's type it in. Okay, source type equals, as you type the search assistant shows you a list of your previous searches that start with source type. You then can select the search that we ran earlier to search for a successful purchases and then add category ID simulation. So action equals purchase. And basically it's just showing you that you can easily start filling in your searches for you automatically. So category ID equals simulation. So find the number of purchases of each type of product sold on the Buttercup Games online store. Remove category ID in your search criteria and run it again. We'll just cut that. Locate the unique category ID values by clicking on the category in the selected field. So category ID, and click on the name such as accessories. Add it to your search. So now we can see all the search or the results for accessories. Okay. Moving on. All right. So we kind of already went through some of the, I was showing you some like matching searches and cleaning things up about views. We might just scroll past this. Okay, and now we're going to go through this. Okay, so click on search to start a new search. And we know that we have to type in our index equals NOV. And change the time range picker to all time. Type the letter S. And it shows us all the matching searches and matching terms and explains how to search. So now you can kind of see all the drop downs and information. That's what it was going through up there, but we've already have that configured. Select the following search in the matching terms or type the search into the bar. Status equals 200. Action equals purchase. Beautiful. And then what it wants us to do is put in a pipe. So if yours didn't automatically shift to the next page, that's part of that whole steps where if you come up here to preferences, you get SPL editor and where it says search auto format and line numbers, you can select those so you can see that automatically. It just kind of makes it cleaner for us. Okay, so it says after action, type the pipe character into the search bar. If you're curious with the pipe character, you can press Control and the button if you're on Windows, Control the button above Enter, which is a /pipe. Actually, is that Shift? No, it's Shift. My brain. Control pipe will actually or restructure it all for you if you don't have that selected under the administration preferences. And then we're going to type in top. You can actually see that top start populating some things for us. And we're going to top category ID. And now we have our result sets for the top results for category ID. So now we're in the statistics tab. So we're no longer in the events tab. Okay. Something to pay attention to as you're kind of working with Splunk. We won't get into much detail, but know that there's this is verbose, smart mode, and fast mode here. If you get into dashboard building and creating charts and visualizations, and just know for future, save yourself some time, know that you need to pay attention to this. Verbose is a more expensive search and it retains all the information during your search process. But again, we won't go through it now. You'll sometimes see it in smart mode and fast mode. Just makes your life easier and uses less resources on the end if you write your searches that are geared towards fast mode. Okay. Okay, perfect. In verbose mode and switching it off this, so if we change this to fast mode, you'll actually cannot go back to your events tab. So if you click on verbose mode, it still stores all those events and resources. So it's just more about resource conservation along the process. All right, visualization tab. Beautiful. Line chart. That doesn't help us. Let's change that to a pie chart. So click on line chart right here, and we can change to our recommended, and we can see a pie chart. You can see a bar chart. You can see the total count. Leave it a pie chart. Change up some of your visualization aspects of it. So you have. Oh, I guess we don't have too many. We don't have too much settings we can change with this one. That's fine. But you can kind of highlight over and see additional information associated. Click on the strategy slice. And when I click on the strategy slice, it's actually going to delete the rest of my search. And so I filter now on all the data associated category size. So it's a one way to kind of drill down dynamically based off of investigating data and searching more. I'm actually going to go back and I'm going to, since we're getting a little close on time and I've just been going through this pretty casually, I'm going to show you a little bit of a dashboarding and visualization aspect of this. So here, events, patterns, statistics, visualization. I just click the back button to get here. You can type it all over again. What we're going to want to do is save this as a new dashboard and call November Fun or No Fun. And we'll just keep it on private. We don't want anybody else to see this just yet. We'll leave it at the classic dashboards. And we'll call this top category ID. Click on Save as Dashboard. And now what you've done is when you go through the process of creating dashboards and visualization, you start doing investigation, you now can create your own very simply and easily about your own solution about what your data means. And as you kind of build it out, then you can share it with permission. So for example, if we come over here, I think where is permissions, edit permissions there, and you can start changing. You can say anybody in the app can see it, read, write, admin, power users, and so forth. I'm not going to change any of that right now. And what we can see here is once you've built your search or your dashboard, you can just drop a couple inputs. For example, if you want to look at different time frames, you can actually link those here. So in this particular filter for the search in time, we call this field 1. We're going to call this my time apply. And now I can come over here into my dashboard panel and click on use picker, and I'm going to say share time picker on my time, and I apply. So now my time picker is now linked. So if we had live data, I could say what is the last purchases between these two different time periods, if that's something that I'm investigating more deeply. Perfect. So I just want to show you that real quick. We'll move back on to use a subsearch. Okay, so start a new search. Okay. If you're having issues, a screen not clear. If you're having issues with the screen kind of being fuzzy, may need to have to change the settings. It looks like you are on YouTube, so it just depends on different streaming services, but Twitch and YouTube tend to be this clear versions. All right, so start a new search. Interesting. I'll keep that in mind and I'll do some research on that. We got about 10 minutes on our stream left, so I'll investigate why it's only on 720 max, because we should be streaming much higher than that. All right, start a new search, change to all time, and find the shopper who had accessed the online shopping the most. Use the search. I'm going to copy that in. Remember, we got to say index equals NOV, paste that search in. And you see this, how the pipe was in there in that structure. What you can do is control pipe or command pipe if you're on Apple. And it'll automatically structure your data for you accordingly. What this search does is now we set a command and a feature for top. Let's drop that in so you can see. So top, let's dig in and exactly what the top command does. And if you want to find out more information about it, here's some of the details, but I tend to like the Splunk documentation for these commands. And this is where you can start getting all those arguments associated to those commands. And really what I like to do is just drop down to the examples, so kind of, because they have some pretty good examples in there to see. And you know, and as you're going through your Splunk experience and you're learning these commands, also drop down, and this is like a little, like one of my favorite little things. If you see also, it's searches that function almost like what you're trying to do. So as you're trying to explore and learn different commands, make sure you click on those to open up new. So for example, top is the, I guess the antonym or the opposite command would be rare. So give me the rarest result set. How often do things not happen as often? All right, perfect. Okay, so the limit equals 1. So this IP address, this person has purchased 20, it looks like purchased 2.56% of the total. They are big money bags. So we need to make sure that they are a happy customer. Okay, perfect. So this search returns one client IP with a value of, I won't read that off, which you will use to identify the VIP shopper. The search also returns a count and a percentage. These are default fields that are returned with the top command. Okay, so now what we want to do is we're going to run, for example, you saw that. We saw the stats command right here, and that's what the command that we're going to do next. So we're going to run this command here. So step 1, we're going to run this first part, which we're going to filter on just this particular IP. I think if I just click on this and I say new search, nope. I was trying to make my life a little bit easier and say view add a search. It will work. You can open up a new tab, but I was wanting to do is just append it. So okay, let's pop that in there. And index equals NOV. I got to make sure I add that because that's where the index where all my data is living. And now I've filtered on all of my results in which I just have that particular IP address. And now we're going to do a new command that's called the stats count command. So we'll just type this one in. This looks like will probably be the last command that we do today because we'll close out. Stats count. So if I do stats count, it's going to give me the total result. So 134 times the stats count for this IP address return action equals purchased. But then I want to see distinct count product. Okay. And we'll close that. So now we have a new search criteria. So for distinct, I think I misspelled distinct. Yeah, and distinct count. So now I have a total number of purchases, but how many of those distinct count were the product ID? So I miss product ID. I think it's lowercase d here. Perfect. Yeah. So distinct count of product ID. It is case sensitive, so keep that in mind as you're building your Splunk searches. So we have 134 purchases, and we have 14 distinct purchase types. So he's only purchased 14 distinct products and a total of 134 purchases. And then we're going to see values by product product ID. We'll just paste that in. And now you can see all those values. Values just gives me a list of all the different distinct product IDs by product kind of ID. And basically this next one, I believe it goes through the same thing. But we're going to close out here. Thank you guys for joining me today. I don't think that there's anything more on my slideshow. Let me just double check real quick, make sure there's anything else that, oh yeah, survey. We got to switch it over. All right. Hey, thank you everyone for joining me today. And make sure I share. So we do have a survey. So if you want to know more about, the specific details, you want me to dive in, you're like, hey, I'd love for you to really dig into some command like stream stats or something like that. We can dive into those and have some fun. If you want to know more about, let's say, let's say the metrics index, or dive into the metrics index and what that means. We can go through all those. So looks like we got the sweepstakes and the survey. Let me drop the survey into chat real quick. Then you can have that for so you can fill out the survey. Please fill it out. Let us know if there's more you want to learn about. But thank you all for joining me today. Again, first, second, third Thursday, we'll be doing Gray's Academy, and look forward to seeing everyone next week. Thank you.